What we will do is we are going to start up today. In last session we have discussed about how actually a developer should start thinking about objects, what all are different type of attributes which are there, single valued, multi-valued, composite, right? We also spoke about what all are the different type of behaviors which are there, like construction behavior, then accessor behavior, modifier behavior, right? Destructor behavior. So we have seen all these different type of behaviors which are there in case of object-oriented systems, right? So what we will do now, we'll take one by one and we'll discuss about different elements, right? Different elements of a class, right? We'll start. Right. So we know when we talk about class is collection of or is combination of attributes and behavior, right? So let's see how many different, what is the scope of attributes, what are different scope of attributes which are there in a particular class. Okay, so typically a class can have following types of scope. So I'm writing a scope of attributes. First is local. When we say local, it's defined in a class, in a method. Okay, method you say, or you say function, that becomes local attribute or local scope. Second is instance variable. Right? If you see, first scope is local variable, second scope is instance variable, right? Now instance variable is defined as per object. That means each object of the class will have its own variable, and they are accessible by all methods. Okay, clear? So this is what is second scope, called as instance variable. Now you have a third scope also, and that scope is class variable. Now it's defined per class, right? All instances of the class will share the same variable. It means whenever you will create a new instance, it's not that a new variable will be created. Okay, is that clear? Correct. Fine. That means now you have three different type of variables: local variable, instance variable, and class variable. Right. Now when it comes to methods or behavior, when it comes to methods will also have scope, right? There are two different scopes. First is instance scope. That is each object, or you can say can be called with object name. Means you cannot call it with class name. Second scope is class scope. Right? Can be called without creating instance. Means with class name. In other words, in order to make call to class scope methods, you don't need to create instances. But in order to call instance scope methods, you have to immediately go and create instance. Right? Is that clear? Fine. Now, instance variables are also called as non-static variables. And class variables are called as static variables. Same is the case here. Instance methods are called as non-static methods. And class scope methods are called as static methods. Okay, is that clear? Is that right? Fine. So let's go and see what is the difference and how actually we are going to use all these variables. Right. So what I'll do, I will launch my Eclipse here because now it's time to start working with Eclipse. I have JDeveloper Studio. It is not different from Eclipse. Okay. Let it get launched. Something that we have to do in Eclipse is to go and create a project. I'll just go and create a project. I'll be creating a simple Java project. I'll go to Java and I'll select here Java project. Click on next. I'll write here name of the project. You can select JDK that you want. Okay, my system currently has 2, so I'm selecting Java SE 1.7, which is the recent one. Okay, in my system, I'll go and click on next. I'll click on finish. It is saying you want to use only those tools which are required for Java. I'm saying yes. I don't want those tools which are required for developing web applications and all, because as of now my requirement is only Java. Okay, right? It's clear, right? Fine. Or what next? Next is to go and create a class and first evaluate static and non-static variables. I'll just go here, new class, and I'll write here test class. Let me take public static void main, click on finish. Okay. So yeah, I'll not take public static void main here. Now what I'm doing is I'm declaring int I equal to 30, right? This variable is non-static, and its default is what? Non-static, right? Now I will write another program and I will try to access this variable. So I'll go here, new class, and I'll write here test driver statement. Click on finish. Now here in main method, I will try to access test class dot. It's not giving me, right? Saying that you don't have any variables. Okay, which is accessible as of now. Let's go and write this out. And now here what I am going to do, I am going to write test class. This is the name of the class dot. Nothing is visible here, right? Now what I'll do, I'll just go and change this variable to static. So the minute I change it to static and I put here dot, what happens? You'll get this I know. Save, and I'll save it. Now I'll run it. I'll get the value, right? So can you tell me why I was able to access using class name here? Because static variables, right? Static variables you say, or members you say, are accessible using class name, right? Is that clear? Then how to access in case if this variable is non-static? If this variable is non-static, you have to mandatorily go and create object. So we have to go here in main and create object of test class obj equal to new test class. And now instead of using class name, I have to use object name. So I write here obj. Now you see it is accessible, right? So at least this is clear. It should not freeze. Vidya, is that clear? So what we have done, we have created an instance and then we have written statement to access it. So what is the fact that you can collect from here? What's the fact? And in order to access non-static variable, what is mandatory? Instance. You have to go and create instance. Okay. And if you want a member to be accessible without creating instance, what you have to do? You have to declare it as what? Static. Yes. Challenge is, see, if I want a member to be directly accessible with class name, it means it has nothing to do with objects. Without creating objects also, it will be allocated memory, right? So in that case, what I will do, I will declare this as static. Once I declare it as static, I don't need to create object here. Without creating object also, by just using class name, I'll be able to access. It means static variables are allocated memory during class loading time itself. Okay, right? But if this variable is non-static, means I'm not declaring it as static, what I need to do? I need to go and create instance, because non-static variables cannot be accessed without creating object. means memory is allocated to non-static variables when you use new keyword in order to create objects. Is that clear? Karen, is that clear? Okay. So this was the case with instance and non-static variables. Okay, static and non-static variables. So let's go and talk about methods also. So I'll go to my test class. In this test class, I'm writing public void get info, right? And here I'll write sysout get info called. I'll save it. So what type of method it is? It is non-static. Why I'm calling it as non-static? Because I don't have static keyword here along with the public. Okay, I'll go here, right? And if I want to make call to the method, in case if this method is non-static, what is mandatory? I need to have what? Object. So as of now, object is there. So I can just go and make call to get it, right? And run it. You'll get the value. But what if I want this method to be called without creating instance? What I need to do? I want to make call to this method without creating any instance. Eileen, what we need to do? We need to declare this method as what? As static. Okay, good. I'll save it. I'll go here. Now I don't need this object. If I want to make call to get info, I can just go and comment it out because we are testing it. I can just go and specify name of the class. You specify name of the class, you'll be able to make call to the static methods. I'll run it and you'll find out. Is that clear, Vidya, Eileen and Shalini? What is basic difference between static and non-static? Okay, good. Fine. So you can have methods as static, you can have variables as static and non-static. Fine. So sometimes what happens, you see, this is very important what I'm going to discuss. Sometimes I want to execute some statements without actually creating instance, right? I want to just execute some statement when that class is loaded, because initially I told you, right, when you compile code, after compilation, loader loads the code, right? Verifier verifies the code, right? And then executor executes the code. This is what was the life cycle, right? Okay. Is that clear? Okay. Right? Right. So what is our objective now? Our objective is to see when actually a class is loaded, right? And we want class to be, whenever class is loaded, I want to execute some statement, right? So you have something else there called as static block. So I'll go here and I'll write static opening and closing. This is what? It's a static block. I'll write here sysout hello class is loaded. Okay. Be careful because it's something which is important. Right? Is that clear? So if someone is asking you to write code which should get executed as soon as class is loaded without making call to any methods, what block you will create? Static block. How to create static block? You'll be using the static keyword opening and closing. Okay. Is that clear? Fine. So let's see now when class is loaded. I'll go here. I'll delete this. Now let me write here. Test class obj. Now let's go and see whether class is loaded at this point of time or not. Run it. Run as Java application. Okay. So you see class is not loaded, right? It means when you declare object reference, at this point of time class is not loaded, right? Fine. Now how to load class? You see what I'm talking about here is how to load class forcefully or explicitly. Okay. So I'm going to write here some statement which will load class forcefully. I'm writing here class dot or name, and I'm passing here name of the class that I want to load. The name of the class is test class, right? As of now, you just go and understand that there is an exception which we have to handle. Now let me go and run it. Run Java application. Are you able to see? Hello class is loaded. Is that clear? If someone will ask you to load class explicitly, you can load it, right? Fine. Now one question here. Again, I'm going and writing class dot or name test class. How many times this hello? How many times this hello class is loaded will be called? Eileen saying 1, Vidya is saying 1, Shalini, as per you? Good. Okay. So once this class is loaded, until and unless it is not unloaded, it will not be needed to reload it, right? And just go here, run it, and you will see that class is loaded only once. Is that clear? Now, so this is how actually you will be loading the class. See, we have loaded the class, but instance is not there. Huh? We don't have the instance, right? So now let's see when actually class is loaded. When we talk about creating instance, I am writing here test class obj equal to new test class. At this point of time now, class has to be loaded, right? It means that when you declare object reference, at that point of time class is not loaded. If you want to load class forcefully, you can use a class called class itself and a method called as format, right? Class gets loaded when you actually go and create instance. Okay, and once class is loaded, again and again class loading will not happen until and unless that class is not unloaded. Okay, is that clear? Fine. So I feel that you are clear with this keyword now called as static. What are the three important usages of static is clear? Clear, right? Right. So this was one of the important aspects that actually we had discussed now. Now we are clear with all three different types of scopes which are there. We are clear with how actually they are handled. Okay. So sometimes what happens, you will have to load classes and you will have other classes which will use those classes in order to do reflections. Like in case of JDBC, you have to load driver. Okay, loading the driver is what is one of the typical cases when you have to go to class.format. Okay, so whenever you will have some methods which will do runtime type identification and then logic will be based on that, you will go with this type of class loading. Okay, Vidya. So one of the example is JDBC driver loading or any driver loading. Okay, fine. Now let's move to behavior. See, one of the behaviors that we will like to discuss today is construction behavior. Okay, how actually objects are constructed and initialized. Because objective of constructor is what? Objective of constructor is to go and help you out in definitely allocating memory depending on members and all, and to help you in doing first time initialization. Okay, so you can say constructor are methods which are used to allocate memory and initialize members. Then what is objective of constructor, right? Now you need to understand that constructors are special methods, and when we talk about special methods, you have to follow certain rules, and those rules are name of constructor method must be similar to name of class. Then what is one of the important rules that you have to follow? Rule number 2, must never have return type. So other methods can have return type, but constructors should never have return type. Third, are implicitly called. It means when you create objects using new keyword, they are implicitly called. Right? You need not go and call them explicitly. Right? So you have name of the constructor method must be similar to name of the class. Right? Must never have return type and are implicitly called. Is it clear? These three rules. Right. Fourth important thing that you have to remember is, if you don't write your constructor, JRE adds one, and this is what is called as default constructor. And default constructors are usually without any argument or method body. They will not have any implementation, right? Only task is all the members will be initialized with default values. because we are writing an empty constructor without passing any argument. Is that clear? Okay. Fine. So these are the 4 important things that you have to remember. Yeah, I'm there. You're able to hear me, right? Okay, fine. Now, few things are there that we need to discuss here again. 5th important thing: constructors can be overloaded. When I say overloaded, it means one class can have multiple constructors. Okay, but yes, with different signature. Okay, is this clear? When I say signature, it means what? Arguments, different arguments, right? So will you remember these 5 rules? Okay, fine. Eileen, you'll remember, right? Fine. So let me go and write some code here, and this time I'm just writing it on console. I'm writing class test class 1. I'm not writing anything here. I'll just go and save it, and test class 1 dot Java. I'll go to some place and I will save it. Okay, let me go to documents only and save it. I've saved it. I will launch command prompt. I'll go to documents and see I have now test class 1 dot Java. Okay. Now I'll go and I'll compile it. JAVA06 test class 1 dot Java. Now I have compiled it. I'll just go here and write Java test class 1. Nothing will happen because no main method is there, right? So I want to see that when I just wrote an empty class, what all are the members which are there of this class. I'll go and I'll write Java P test class 1. Yeah, Salini and Eileen, are you able to see? This class is not empty. What is there? You have a method, right? And this method is what is the default constructor. Okay, so if you are not writing constructor, your JRE is adding this default constructor. Okay, fine. Now let me go and add my own constructor here. I'll go and I'll write public test class 1. Name of the constructor should be similar to name of the class. Here it's opening and closing. I'll save it. Now I will go here. I will recompile. Sorry, I'll just go and correct it. Whatever is there, public. I'll save it. I'll come and compile it. And here I'll compile and I'll write Java test class. Java P test class. Let's see the structure now. Now, are you able to see the default constructor? It has added what? It has added your constructor, right? Okay, you don't have default constructor anymore. So what is the behavior that you are able to see here? As soon as you write your own constructor, feature of default constructor is lost, right? Is that clear? But I have a requirement. That requirement is I want this constructor as well as default constructor. So what I need to do in that case? I need to go and write my own constructor here. So I'll write in public test class 1. Right? I'll save it. I'll go and compile it. And then I'll do Java P. Now are you able to see? How many are there? 2 are there, right? One is your constructor that you wrote, and second one is default constructor, right? And this default constructor you have to write explicit, right? Because the minute you write a constructor, what happens? Functionality of default constructor is lost. So if you want default constructor to be present there, you have to ensure that you are going and you are adding it explicitly. Clear, right? And now if you see, since you have 2 different constructors here, you have 2 different constructors here, right? So these 2 constructors proves that your class is overloaded. Okay. Since it is 2 different class, 2 different constructors, we can say it's overloaded. Okay. And this overloading is what is called as polymorphism. Right, means your one name have 2 different tasks. It's clear. Clear, right? So can I say that you are clear with what are constructors now? You're clear, right? So you'll remember these rules that we just discussed. Variables will have their default. Default, for example, if you have int, it will be 0. Okay. Right. Now what we can do is we can go here to our class, and if you're asking what happened to our variable, I'll write int I, right? And in first constructor I am specifying here I equal to I, right? The problem is there. If you see, this I is parameter, right? And this I is member. So here confusion will be there. So in order to avoid that confusion, we'll be using a pointer called as this. This refers to an instance of this particular class, and this I refers to what now? This I refers to the parameter. Okay, this variable. Is that clear? Why we have used here this? Eileen, is that clear? This refers to your class here, and this I refers to this I. Okay, fine. So now we have a constructor here, and here I am not doing anything, right? Now what I'll do, I will write main method. I can write main method here also. Public static void main string args, right? And here I'll write system dot out dot println, and let me create an instance of test I, test class, obj1 equal to new, and I will like to call which constructor? Constructor with an argument. So I'll write a test class, and I'll pass here some value, right? And here what I'll do, I'll write obj1 dot I. Okay. Now I will create an instance using second constructor also, which is default test class obj2 equal to new test class, and we are not passing any argument here. System dot out dot println, and we'll pass here obj2 dot I, right? Yeah, I'll change the names. It's 5 AM here in India. No. Okay. Is that fine? Eileen, Vidya. So now what happens here? Here what will happen now is, when you create using this, it makes call to this constructor, and when you create using this, it makes call to this constructor, right? So arguments are mapped. So here you have one argument, right, which is 10, right? This is what is the argument part, which matches this argument part. Okay, this is the reason why it is making call to this particular method. Is that clear? Clear, right? Okay, fine. So how to decide which constructor you want to call? You can do that right now. Now we have to run it, and we have to see what is the value of I. Okay, what is the value of I in case if I am calling first constructor, and in that case when I am not calling first constructor, because in first constructor we are initializing, right? In second constructor we are doing nothing. So what will be the value of members? And this member is of what type? Non-static member, right? When actually you don't initialize it to some value. So I'll save it, and I'll go and I'll try to compile it. I'll compile it now. I'll write Java test class 1. You see, What is the value here? 10, right? Okay. This 10 because which constructor was called? Constructor with an argument, right? Here. And why it is 0? Because it makes call to this constructor, right? Which in turn calls this, and here you have not initialized it to anything. Okay, it's not initialized at all, right? Is that clear, Eileen? I hope that it's clear to you also. Okay, good. So I'm sure that now you can understand what constructor is. Okay, and what are the rules which are there that you have to follow in order to work with constructors. Okay. Fine. Now, when you go with Eclipse kind of ID, you will have facility of generating constructors. For example, if I go here and now assume that I'm creating a class called employee, right? I will do the task that we have done yesterday, identify attributes and their types. So int emp id is what I have identified. String emp name I have identified, right? Now I want to generate constructor. So you see, right click, source. A generator from superclass will generate default constructor. You see, default constructor without any signature, without any argument. Now you can go and you can generate various constructor using field. Like first constructor, I selected both. In second constructor, I can go and I can unselect one. Means I can create instance by only using EMPI. Right? I can go with constructor using only EMP name. Right? Apart from this, I can also go and write my own constructors. Right? So if you see, when you are using Eclipse, things becomes easy, right? Is that clear? So will you be able to use Eclipse as well in order to quickly build these classes which we are talking about? Okay. Now if someone is asking you what is use of static keyword, you will be able to elaborate. I'll tell you, Vidya, when I come to inheritance, I'll tell you. Okay? Let it delete it, it will not cause any problem. It's related to inheritance. So once I'll come to inheritance, then you'll be able to understand. Is that fine now? Okay. Now if you have to create instance, you'll be able to create instance. When you are creating instance, what you have to decide? Which constructor is applicable in your scenario. Okay. Whatever constructor is applicable, you will go and you will specify signature of that particular constructor. So all these are what? All these are constructors. Okay. Any confusion? This is also constructor. Should not forget. Right. So now constructors are of two types. One is without args, and this without args is what? Default constructor, right? And this is parametric constructors. Constructor with parameters. Okay. You have various ways. You can call it as non-parameterized. You can call it as parameterized. Okay. I'll write here. Is that clear? Okay, so this is how actually you will work with constructors. Right. Now, big question here is, can constructor be private? Right. See, what is basic difference between public and private that you understand? Difference between public and private. Yeah? Public can be called from other classes also, can be invoked from other classes also, or you can say public attributes can be accessed from other classes also. Same is the case with methods also, right? Now, if you want methods to be called, or if you want variables to be accessible only within methods of the same class, you have to go and declare them as what? Private. Okay. So assume that here I have a constructor called as private, right? So you remember one thing, constructors can be private. Okay. Now I'll go to test driver, and in test driver I'm trying to create instance of employee. Obj equal to new. See, control spacebar I have pressed. I am getting all suggestions of all constructor except what? Except that private one. Okay. So as of now in your rule book, that just you write that constructors can be private as well. Okay. You have to just write it in your rule book. That's it. So I'll increase here rule and I'll write here constructors can be private. Okay. And seventh rule that I'll expect you to remember is constructors are not derived. Okay, just remember this. Once we move to inheritance, you will be able to understand why I'm saying constructors are not derived or are not extended. Okay, is this clear? You'll remember, right? Now, since we are discussing about language, I want you to focus on language features. Okay, don't think about case studies or business use case and all that I will make you do. As of now, you need to be good and strong in language. Is that clear? Eileen, any questions? Okay, you all have installed the Eclipse, right? Right, Eclipse, which I asked you. Okay, fine. Now you see how to add plugins to it. Okay, plugins which we are going to use in our course. Okay, so I'll make you know how actually you can go and add plugins. So I'll make Shalini as presenter or Vidya as presenter because you have downloaded that Eclipse. In my case, I already have all plugins. So I'll just go and make Shalini as presenter. Shalini, you are the presenter now. Can you go ahead and share your screen so that I can show you how actually you can go and install plugins? Yeah, good. Launch your Eclipse. Yeah. Now, whenever you want to install any Eclipse, just go to help. Yeah, in this you have Eclipse Marketplace. Go to Eclipse Marketplace. Right. Now in this what you have to do is you just go and write Hibernate tools. Search. In find you write JBoss tools. Okay, let me do it at once. Write JBoss tools. Yeah, search. Click on go. JBoss, not JBoss. It is JBoss. JBOOS. Click on go. Now this will provide you lots of support in terms of Hibernate and all. Okay. Now yours is Kepler. Come to second option and click on install. Search file not recent, not there. Go to search. You have already searched, right? Go to recent. Yeah. Now in this you have JBoss tools for Kepler. Second one. Yes. There you have install, right? Click on install. Let it get loaded. Now unselect all. On top you go and unselect, because if you start installing all, right, it will take lots of time. Now go to Hibernate tools. Just select what I am asking you to do. Select Hibernate tools in the list. You have fourth one, fifth one. Hibernate tools. Yes. Now come to JBoss Central Community. Central Community. Yes. Now go down and look for JBoss AS tools. AS tools. Go down. JBoss AS tools. Yes. And select that also, JMX console. Yes. Now click on confirm. Now this is going to install your Hibernate tools and all here. Okay. To simplify developers task. Accept the license. Click on finish. Now once you do this, it will ensure that it has installed what? The plugins. What plugins? JBoss application server related. Then you will have Hibernate related. All those plugins will be installed in order to simplify your task. Okay. Is that clear? It's clear, right? Eileen, is that clear? Shalini, Shilpa, or Vidya, is that clear? Okay, fine. So this is how actually you will be completing the installation part. Okay. So today we are done with constructors. We are aware about scope of variables as well as scope of methods, right? And specifically we have discussed static and constructors, right? So now you can create a class and you can understand role of constructor. I am not giving you any assignment here except go through the chapter that I have shared. I have shared you a course material called as SL275, right? So in that you go through constructors. Okay, is that clear? Next session we are going to start up with relationship among classes, where we will discuss about composition, we will discuss about inheritance, right? We will discuss about types of classes, right? And once we are done till interface, you will be good in Java. Because after that, all are implementations of Java, like collection API, multi-threading, JDBC, Hibernate, Servlet, JSP. All these are nothing but they are built using Java language. So once you know Java language properly, by looking at the class itself, you will be able to make sure that how actually you can use it. Click on OK. Allow access. Click on yes. Unless you will not restart, it will not be applied. Yeah, it's done. Just close the JBoss Central. It's a welcome page now. Close that. On top you have a close button. No? Yes. Right. Now here you can go and you can create project and do whatever you want. Is that clear? Okay. So I feel enough for today. Did you? Okay, fine. So next session is very important. So we'll see that in case if we have to extend for half an hour or 1 hour, we'll extend it. But objective should be to complete, you say, relations among different classes so that we can move to interfaces and then abstract classes and all. And then we can start with collection API, JDBC, right? XML, how to read XML from Java and all that, right? Then I'll be able to take some good case studies and show you how actually Java is used in different domains. Okay, so I'll end the session and yeah, thank you, Alan, thank you.